Step into my shoes. I love stories, being a person of books. Sometimes a good story is all it took to get my attention and get me hooked. My original intention with this presentation is to do the 6 minutes or so in rhymes. Guess what? You're not getting it. I haven't really had the time. When I was 13 years old, my teacher went around my class asking us, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I told him that I want to be a writer. And it took him a while to finally say to me, "Good luck with that." He said it very sarcastically, and I kind of understand why now writers don't really make money in Brunei. And I love stories. There are two reasons why I love stories. Firstly, I think it gives me an understanding of other people. I can look at the perspective of others. I can fill in the shoes I have never filled, nor I ever will. And the second reason why I love stories is because it provides me empathy. I can feel for others. I can feel emotions of those who have fought wars, who have struggled through struggles, whose rights have been acquired, and whose dreams have been broken. And I think to these two reasons, understanding and empathy, it connects us with each other as humans, not only in our experience, but also to see our place in the world. I love history. I love culture. And part of the reason why I love these two things is because I love understanding what makes us different and what makes us similar. And it's also a matter of me being a very curious person. And I'm very curious as to what people perceive as right or wrong, when the reality of our world is actually much more complex than that. And it's far more gray and very fluid. But when it comes to the history of Brunei, I find it a bit problematic. And part of it is because I think the history is a bit unrelatable. They're vague, they're not well written, they're not well documented. And I, as a Bruneian, I cannot connect to them. Like for instance, the story of my late grandmother, where does she belong in history? What is the people's story? And I think the problem is that in Brunei, we don't document history the way Euro-Americans do, where it becomes an industry, an entertainment, a branch of entertainment, and enough information for people to satirize it. This is a picture of a 360 panorama looking into a war happening in Istanbul. And it was so specific down to the crest that people have on their vests while they fight war. I did anthropology for my master's degree, which basically means I am unemployable. But for those of you who don't know what it is the study of human from a multidisciplinary angle. We look at history, we look at government politics, linguistic, biology, evolution, science, etc. And in anthropology, there's a branch of study called ethnography, which is a long-term study looking into the people and culture for long periods of time in order to understand cultural phenomena. And this is where I think the perspective of the individual becomes a reality to people. It looks into the specific moment in time of history through stories, reflections, perspective, art, writing, photography. And I think stories gives us directions about where we are going in the future, about the influence of history, and we need to how we make sense of the present by looking at the past, which is why I think documenting history is so important and crucial for us now. I love stories, and I love how it grows from a seed of an idea and manifests into something much bigger, something can be so chaotic. And I love how they're a reflection of our current environment, and it is how we communicate, how we make sense of our lives. And again, I love stories, but I cannot relate to our history because there's no humanity to it. And I think many others feel the same way too. And I think this is where our story comes in. I think stories and personal experiences put us in our place in history, and we need to transfer them from one generation to another. I travel a lot. This is me at the Roman Coliseum, which I think is a great Pokemon battle idea. But I really think that we need, I go travel and I can relate to these things, but only to a certain extent because they don't really directly impact me. But it wasn't until I went to the National Gallery in Singapore last month where I saw a drawing of a tree during colonial time, this tree in fact. And it impacted me because it was the kind of tree I can see at the back of my house. It's the kind of tree I can see as I drive in Brunei. And it was the first time I feel like history resonated with me because it was something that I can understand that although people move on, a lot of things don't. And I think I stand in front of you today to implore you, we should utilize what we have now. The internet is such a powerful tool. In order for us to document history, we can be the heroes of the future generation. We should be less apathetic when it comes to documenting about our lives, our stories, because it's important for us to understand various aspects of our world, our region, our nation, our kampongs. Which is why in 2013, I started a website called Songket Alliance. It is where I invite writers living in Brunei to write about their lives in Brunei and to reflect upon it. We're 300 articles strong, and so far people have looked at social affairs in Brunei, gender culture, and the issue of mental health pops up so often. And through this, I have learned so many things from my writers. Norweer has taught me that kampong air means different things to different people. Chiong has taught about how food becomes a glue of kinship. And then you have something like Rauda here, who obviously shows us that despite privileged access to fresh produce, we're still going to eat the mee goreng. 2 weeks ago, we started a live show called Ramshackle. It is a night of very messy performances, where a way to highlight flaws on stage, because it is an antithesis of very perfectly staged shows. And there's also a way for us to document history from a citizen's perspective. And we, through the show, we compare the then and the now, and we look at cultural oddities, and we try to interpret the vague history that we have. And I think these small stories through Songket Alliance, they are small, but I think they're very significant in large brushstrokes of lives, in large brushstrokes of history, in order for us to understand the humanness of our history. And I think it's really important for us to look at it. If you've done research on Brunei, you would understand the frustration of getting information. So if you want to write for us, songketalliance.com is the website. If you don't, that's fine. Read the articles on the website, 300 articles, that's quite a lot. If you want to start something your own, do it. I am super 100% up for that. And I think back to my teacher when I was 13 years old, who sarcastically told me, good luck with that. And I think back and I realize, you know, I'm a writer, but I'm also more than that. I'm trying to document history. My name is Teah Abdullah. I'm a writer. I love stories. And then sometimes I wonder, what's yours?